Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary, back here again teaching another ceramic piece. Today we're going to be doing this lighthouse. Okay, I know that most of you have picked up the kits at the library and should have everything that you need in front of you. Always have a water bowl, a palette or a piece of foil to put some of your color on if you want to put it on, lay it out on something. I mean, you do have the strips and most of the colors can be worked out of the strips, but if you wanted to put it on something to make it easier to paint with, you can use a piece of foil. All right, and your brushes, whatever brushes you may have. Now, I started out by starting to base coat this a little bit so as not to bore you with watching me just doing some base coating. I put gray. Now, a lot of you might ask, and I've had people ask, why I put gray under here and not under here. I wanted to show a little bit of a contrast between the white and the white over the gray so that there would be a little bit more distinction in the lighthouse. Not the White House, the lighthouse. So I put gray under here, and then I'm going to be pouncing some white over it. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but that's the way I did it. Now, I base coated gray here, and the red is going to go in the middle. And I started by putting the green on the bottom. Ignore this. This is a piece that I keep firing in the kiln to burn off the colors to keep using as a sample whenever I do a YouTube or a Zoom class. So a lot of the color doesn't come off, but most of it does. So anyway, now what I didn't do, and I'm going to do along with you, is the bottom part of the house is base coated in the lighter gray also. The little part of the house on the side here and the main part of the house. Now the roof we add, I believe I said in the directions to add a dot of black and just to get a charcoal gray. All right, so I'm going to be putting this gray on the bottom half of the little house attached to the lighthouse. I don't know what they call that, but lighthouse house. Okay, so nice and smooth. Put your colors on nice and smooth. You all should have a nice accumulation of brushes. If you don't, Amazon has nice brushes, and what you want to use on nylons. Brushes used for acrylics. I use nylons, and I find them the best. They're not as soft as like watercolor brushes. They have a little bit of resilience, and they keep the colors smooth. If the brushes are too soft, your colors won't go on nice and smooth. And you don't want to see ridges in your paint. So I'm not being ultra neat with this because the top and the bottom, the roofs, are going to have the gray in it anyway, but with a little black in it, so it will cover where I go out of the lines. Okay, and now just the front. I did a red door, but you can do your door whatever color you want. I think the red door kind of looks cute. It makes it stand out from the gray. And I'm not being particularly neat doing this, as you should be, but you should get into all the windows because you will see that when your piece is finished. So take your brush and get in and go around all those little openings in the windows. Okay, so I have the gray on there. Excuse me, I have been sick for 2 weeks, and I can't shake this summer cold. Everyone tells me summer colds are very, very difficult to get rid of. Well, I'm finding that out, so bear with me with my cough and my voice. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the white, and I'm going to put the white on this area on the top here. Now I'm not going to go around the black. I'm just going to take the white from right here, right down to here where I did the gray. Okay, because black will cover everything, and you don't have to go around that area. Put a little white out, or work from your strip of paints, and I'm going to do white. From where the silver is, right below the silver, to right above the gray on the lighthouse column. Try to make these pieces and these videos easy enough for people who haven't done ceramics their whole life to be able to achieve and be proud of what you've done. I'm sure there's a lot more intricate ways of doing these things, and it's your piece, so if you wanted to change it, that's completely up to you. But I try to work each piece that I do so that it's finished in approximately 2 hours, because that's usually the length of a class, if it's in person or if it's on Zoom or if it's on, well, on YouTube I go a lot faster, but on YouTube you can pause this and then you can stop and go back and watch it as many times as you'd like. All right, so now I have a drop of gray here. Maybe I'll put a little bit more gray. This is where you might need the foil. Put a little more gray in my palette. And then I'm going to use so little black because the black is so overpowering. I'm just going to put a dot in my brush, I mean a real dot. I'm going to start out with less is more and work it into the gray. See how fast that color changed? I would prefer that you do it little at a time instead of all at once. And now I'll put that on the roof. Yeah, look at the color, how much different it is. Just a couple of dots of the black in the gray. Of course, I probably didn't mix enough for myself. But since I pounced some white over this also, it doesn't really matter if I have to mix more and it's a little different, because there's quite a few different shades in the roof as it is. Now I'm using a number 6 nylon brush. I don't know if all of you have this brush. I've given so many different brushes out to different libraries, I can't remember who I gave what. But, you know, you can always get brushes at Michael's, and Amazon has them. I think you should have this one. You probably have the large square one, and then this one. Okay, I'm going to have to mix a little bit more and hope that I can match it. Close enough. Now it's going to be hard to use this big brush to do the little edge of the roof, so I'm probably going to go to a small brush, a little smaller brush. I'll put that one in water and go to a little smaller brush to do the edge. Always lean your hand or your arm as you're working, because if you work like this you're going to shake, so always lean your hand. I was saying to make sure you get in the windows, because now as I'm looking down here I can see all the little windows I didn't get in. So make sure you get in the windows, because you will see that. I've also found, and I don't know if any of you have watched my previous videos, that I work pretty well with markers also lately for these home classes. So I don't know if they make a gray marker, but if you're having trouble and you don't have a small brush, you could probably outline this with a gray marker. I haven't tried it, but that's just another thought. My paint's a little thick, so I'm just wetting my brush a little bit, but don't water it down too much. You won't get good coverage. But if you're having trouble spreading, sometimes on an edge, I'll put a drop of water in my brush, and it makes the paint spread a lot easier, and it gives me a better edge. Okay, I'm almost done with this part. But you can take your time. Don't rush it. I'm just doing this for teaching's sake, and like I said, you can pause this video, take your time, and go back to it at any time. taking a lot more of the paint than I thought, so you have to mix yourself quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to stop on that for now. I see a spot that I missed on the house here. Yeah, but I could see in all the windows where I didn't get, so make sure you get in those windows, because it looks sloppy if you don't. Okay, now, with the white, I don't know if you have a dry brushing brush, but if you don't, you can use the number 6 liner also. I pick up a little bit of white in my brush, like so, okay? And I'm going to pounce it on the gray area. This is what I mean about putting the white over the gray and letting this part of the lighthouse look a little different than the top part of the lighthouse. And you see what I did there? See the difference? So I'm just putting a little bit in the brush, and oops, you got to keep this down because you're pressing hard on it. And now if this hits the white above, it doesn't really matter because that's all white anyway. And you can do this as many times as you like. This one I made pretty white, but if you wanted to keep more of the gray showing through, you can. It's your piece, and you know, stop doing this when you're satisfied with the way it looks. I usually go over it at least twice. I don't know, I didn't mention that, and it does say it in the directions, about 1.5 inches these sections are, but I use the windows as a guide. All right, this one I went down too far with the gray, so I stay above this middle window and under the top window. That's my line going around on this part of on the top part of the lighthouse. Get a little bit more white. I always pounce it out on a paper towel before I go to the piece because I don't want a big blob. And then I just work it. And again, I'm staying above this window. I did go a little bit below it, but we're going to put the red there. And under this window. Now, if you do this and you go around to do a second coat and it's starting to lift, it means your paint's very wet. You just have to wait for it to dry and then you can go back over it again. I went too low with my gray, so I'm going to kind of stop it at that point. And I'll put the red over that. So now I'm going to go around a second time. And you'll see a big difference in the color the second time you do it. Can you see that? That's my second coat on this side, and that's my first coat on that side. And now the first coat doesn't even look like there's any white over it, but there is. I'm just going to do the top part because you'll have the idea about how to do the bottom part. You do it exactly the same way. And I could see it lifting just a little bit. So even if I wanted to do another coat because I wanted it a little bit whiter, I could wait for a couple of hours or an hour or until I think it's really dry and it's not going to lift my first coat up. And it kind of gives it a texture. I'm pouncing with a very stiff brush, and it gives a little bit of a texture there also. But like I said, you can just keep going over that and do as much as you want on it. Now, what I did on the roof is I kept the white in the brush and just pick up a little bit of gray in with it. So it's not so white, white, white. And then pounce some on the roof, just to give it a little bit of depth on the two roofs. And you can see what I did there. A little streaky. Here I did more pouncing, which you can then blend out. Okay, you could do something like that. All right, now, I guess we'll do, you can put the green on the bottom, and the bottom is just all green, and I would put it on the very bottom also. So now I'm going to be doing the red. Don't forget to pounce the bottom white before you go to your red. Like I said, I didn't do it because I don't want to take the time and bore you with watching me do this, but you have the idea of how to do it. Do it 2-3 coats. I think even if I did this one a third coat, the white would be even whiter. I think the 3 coats is what I would normally do. You can see that's 3 coats there. That's 2 coats. Okay, so I think the 3rd coat is what I like in the finish, but like I said, it's up to you. It's your piece. You can do as much as you want. Now take your red. I'm going to paint that section in the middle. Now, again, if you had a marker and you had a red marker, you could draw a line, or you want to take a piece of paper. I think I even said that you can, you'd have to cut it small and wrap this around. But I use the windows as a guide. Okay, I mean, you can take a piece of paper and wrap it around and draw a pencil line, however you can, to make that line as straight as possible. A marker, and then follow the marker. I just use the brush, and I use the windows as a guide. Now I'm going in the front, I'm going under that window. So I'm going to start under that window. And don't forget to do inside. A little bit of dust in there. Okay, and now on this window, I'm almost above that window. I'm not going to try to do the top and the bottoms of the red at the same time. I'm going to go around and try to get my line as straight as possible. See what I'm doing here? And it's cockeyed already, so I will have to go around and straighten it out. It's because I'm trying to do it upside down so you could see what I'm doing. Not easy to draw a straight line. Okay. Now on this side window, it is above, the one above the house. The red is just above the window. I'm going to go back and I'm going to straighten it out as best I can. And it dips down a lot in the front there. I'll have to straighten that out. And again, a little drop of water in your brush when you're trying to do an edge, it floats the color on a little bit easier. And you can go back and fill it in. Getting better, getting better. You have to play with it. And now when I do the bottom part, I'm going to turn it upside down to get the bottom line straight. And again, I'm going to put a little water in my brush just to get a nice straight line. And using the windows as a guide. So I'm doing the bottom part, but I turned it upside down to do the bottom part. Now if you put a drop of water in the brush and you find your paint is a little thin, you can always go back and do a second coat, but it gives you a better edge. I always do that, like when I'm doing a figurine and I have to do lashes, I always put a drop of water in my brush to make those lashes flow off the brush a little easier. And this red that I use is such a nice red. This is Duncan's Barnyard Red. It's one of the best covering reds I find in the industry. I'm just going to edge above the little house on the side. And then I have my red done. You can put these colors in place, let them dry, and then go back and do a second coat. I said you have all the time in the world, and the one advantage of working at home is you do have the colors. So you could always touch it up at any time. Hold on to the colors, okay? It's not so perfect, but it's getting there. But you get the idea. You just have to play with that and take your time. Now, with a small brush, I'm also going to do the door. And on another one that I did red trim on the bottom. So I'm going to do that now in the red so you can get the idea of how cute the red looks on the bottom of the house. It doesn't have to be the white. You can do the white and do the red. Right now I'm just doing the door. Okay, got a little red door. And now the steps on that one I did white. I'm going to do the steps in red on this one to match the red trim on the house. This you really need to take your time, and that little bit of water in the brush does help spread the paint better, especially down here. You only have just a little area. And keep rotating the piece. If you can't get in the corner this way, turn the piece a different way. Sometimes it's easier when the piece is in a different direction. Yeah, the water really makes the paint flow off the brush a lot better. Okay, I have the little red door. And you continue this red all the way around the house, the bottom of the house. I'm using a real tiny brush for this. While you're watching the video, you could work along with me and just get all your colors in place. And then later on, when you have time, you go back and I call you tweak it. I always say that when you do a class on YouTube or Zoom and you're following very closely and you're rushing, okay, you don't do your best work. So I always go back the next day and I take a look at all the areas that I'd like to, fix up. And sometimes it takes me 5 minutes, sometimes it takes me half an hour, but it makes a big difference. And I call that tweaking it the next day, and that really makes a big difference. Now, this black line here, of course, is a little more difficult to do, and you also can do this. I don't know what I got on here. You also can do this with a marker if you want. Now, my line got very big only because I kept trying to make the line perfect. And I kept going around and around and around. So, put that down there. When I refire this to burn off the colors, the reds turn this rusty color, and it's coming all over the place here. So just ignore that. All right, so now I'm going to go across here, and I'm going to do a black in here. Like I said, if you want to edge it with the marker, it really does help, because I had a couple of people do that, and they said it really worked. Again, if you're doing it with the brush or the marker, concentrate on the upper line first, and then turn it upside down to do underneath and make this part. See, like I'm concentrating just on the top part of the line now. Now I'll turn it upside down to concentrate on the lower half of the line. I'm trying to keep it that you could see what I'm doing, but then my lines are really cockeyed. Okay, so you see now I got that pretty good in that one area. So I do the top, then I do the bottom. I go back and forth. So I'll go around. I have it upside down now, so I'm going to go around. This is probably the most difficult part of the whole piece, is doing this line. If you take your time, you'll be okay. Okay, I'm almost finished with the bottom line, and I am not being as neat as you can be. I'm kind of rushing it. But you take your time and do a better job than I'm doing. Now I'm going to go back to the top part. And it's getting there. It keeps getting thicker and thicker as I go around. And then you're going to be doing this whole top part in the black also. But I think I would go to the silver next, and then go back to the black. All right, I'm going to stop on this. It's not perfect, but I've got some color in there. Okay, and wash that out. And go to the silver. Now in your strip, I believe I marked all your little pods silver, so you wouldn't get it mixed up with the gray, because they do kind of look similar if you don't know what you're looking for. So make sure that you're using the silver now. And this is Duncan silver that I'm using. I like their silver and their gold are really, really nice. We're just going to paint that on this area here. And again, make sure you get into those windows. And I'm doing the same way I do my lines. I'm not going to do the upper part at the same time I do the lower parts. I'm going to do, well, depending on which direction you have it, but just do one line at a time. Don't try to do this and this, because your brush will be leaning this way and getting onto the black. Actually, it doesn't really matter, because if you get it where the black goes, the black will cover it. But the white, you want to be careful at this, you know, where it meets the white. Okay, go around. Now I'm going to turn it this way and put it on here. And I'm not going to be as neat with the silver on the top, because like I said, the black will cover that. And I want to get it up a little bit to where the black is going to go, so that I have a little leeway with how far down I have to come with the black. Don't forget to get into those windows. Look at it from different directions, because you always see a spot that you missed. Okay, so I have the silver on there. Like those little shells. Those little shells actually came from a beach in Florida. And everybody has different shells. I put together whatever I could on that, but you could always add to it. I'm sure you can find shells on any beach or in Michael's. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the black. I'm going to do the black on the top here. And again, if you have a marker, you can edge this going around with the marker so you don't have to get close to the silver. I'm doing the edge first. And when I say a marker, I have Sharpies, and either have the ultra fine point is the very pointy one. I think that's best for your edging, but you can also use a fine point. I have ultra fine point and fine point. Black Sharpies. And Sharpie's a brand name. I'm sure you can use any other kind if you have it. A little bit of water in the brush would probably be good to do this edge if you don't have the Sharpie. Okay, I got that bottom part done. And now I'll just do the top. And this is solid. If you want, you could go back and do a little accent of silver on the knob, on the top knob. You could be as creative as you want. This is your piece, and if you want to change it, go right ahead. I tried to do this like the Montauk Lighthouse, since we all live on Long Island. Well, most of us do anyway. I'm sure there's others watching this from other parts of the country. But we live on Long Island, so I tried to do this like the Montauk Lighthouse. But if you have a lighthouse where you live, you can do it however you want. Okay, so that's pretty much the lighthouse. Similar, right? Not as neat, but there's one other thing I did do that I didn't point out. And on the base, I pounced a little bit of white with green in the brush, just to give it like 2 shades of grass. So you have a green there, and with the little bit of white that you have in the brush, just pick up a little bit of green, blend it together on your paper towel, and I don't know if you could see that. Can you see that, what I just did? See that? That's what I did on the bottom of the other one. And on your doorknob, you can give it a little knob with either your black marker or with your silver, and you could do a line with the marker in between these steps. See how I did that one? You could do it on the red the same way. Okay, so there I did the bottom of that one. It just gives it a little bit more dimension. Not necessary, but everything you do to the piece enhances the finished product. So that is about all I'm going to be doing on this, and you can continue and do how much you want. And when you're finished, you can seal it with either a spray, a Krylon. Duncan sells spray. I don't know if you can get it locally, but you can get it online. Amazon has it. I use a matte spray. I never use a gloss spray on my pieces. Some people like gloss. I don't. But then just glue your shells on. I would kind of place them around and decide where you want them, and then glue them on. Okay? I'm just going to show you a couple more pieces that I've done, so if anybody's ever interested, on the directions, you have my email address, and it's roecer@gmail.com. This is the gnome tree. Okay, and it's a lantern. You can put either a tea light or the fairy lights in there. The fairy lights look kind of cute. And this is a little gingerbread house I just did. Okay, it's the lantern also. You put the fairy lights in it. And for those of you that are Christian, we have the church. And this is very, very simple, done all in blue, little white dry brushing, little green on the trees and the wreath, and snow and glitter. Very, very easy piece to do. So if anybody's interested, just let me know. And again, thank you so much for taking my class. This was kind of a fast, easy one, but a very, very, very popular one. I've done this at many libraries on Long Island, and it's very popular, the Lighthouse. In fact, the place where I get my bisques has run out of them, and I need to get even more, so I'm waiting. So it's been a very popular piece. And thank you all again for watching my videos, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.